Hey Brian, we're back.
Hey, how's it going?
Another Wi-Fi podcast.
Yeah, good
Looks like,
early morning.
looks like we're online. Okay,
uh,
a couple things. So the new iPhone 13 coming today. You got yours, Brian?
I am definitely not going to be ordering
Come
a
on,
phone. No,
come on. It's the best
I'm not
iPhone ever.
ordering. You're just ordering it so you can say, "Yeah, I got the 13."
Exactly. It's got that big old camera on the back. I gotta show it to everybody. Um,
Yeah, see what
yeah,
kind of improvements they make on the camera.
we gotta see and on the Wi-Fi. Let's see if it's any faster. We know it's not 6E. It's just Wi-Fi 6, but I'm gonna do some performance testing with iPerf and see if it's any faster than I saw on the 12.
Yeah, now what could they have possibly done to make it faster?
Well, I don't know. I mean, they always add more CPU and memory, so it may be able to like process packets faster. Who knows?
Yeah,
Than what we saw before. And I'm sure it has an improved Wi-Fi 6 chipset. It's not going to be exactly the same, so we'll see. Let's see what it does. So we'll do that. But the first thing we really want to talk about was Facebook Wi-Fi. So explain what Facebook Wi-Fi is for people that aren't using it.
I will try to explain it. So, yeah, Facebook Wi-Fi. Yeah, Facebook Wi-Fi is. Um, huh.
I'll start off. So it's basically a way to onboard people onto the Wi-Fi, like at, let's say, a business, right? You have a business. It's really geared to a local business, like let's say you have a coffee house or something, or a bigger business, but you have a local business. People are coming in. You want to onboard them onto that Wi-Fi and get back like some information from them. Email address, a like on your page, so you'll be able to
Yeah.
track those users, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So there's two versions of Facebook Wi-Fi. There's version 1, and then there's a version 2.
Mm-hmm.
Version 2, which that's the version we work with. That allows for not just Facebook users, but also Instagram users. And what I mean by that, like in a coffee house, right? That's probably the best example, or one of the best. So if you're offering Wi-Fi within your coffee house, for example, or a restaurant, the user can choose to log in via Facebook or Instagram. Now, the older version was just Facebook, so the big upgrade is at being able to tap into both of these social media platforms.
Right.
And the idea behind that is like Facebook is the older generation, Instagram is the newer generation or the younger generation. So that was kind of the reason for version 2. So you're capturing a larger crowd within your social media.
Right. So basically, what happens is you go in and you'll be presented. You'll connect to the Wi-Fi, the SSID, and then
Before you talk about that, can I just
Yep.
kind of lay the
Sure.
because now I'm starting to think about it. So right now, what Ingenious does, and some other vendors have, not too many right now in version 2, you can actually create an SSID, and you can now link that to Facebook Wi-Fi,
Mm-hmm.
and that ties the SSID to your business account,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Right.
Okay, so I'm sorry, I wanted to bring that up first.
No, no. So basically, they'll go in. Yeah. So first of all, if you want to use Facebook Wi-Fi, like you said, you have to have a business account, because that's kind of how it's set up, right? You go into the Genius Cloud, you check off Facebook Wi-Fi, and then it'll ask you to set it up. Now, when you do that, it'll redirect you over to Facebook, and you basically have to pick a couple little options there. Do you want them to have to like your page? Collect their email address, like.
Yeah, so one of the very first steps is if you have a business page, you select your business page. If you have multiple business pages, there's a drop down to choose one of the business pages.
Right.
And then you go through and you say, okay, how do you want this person to connect? Do you want them to log in? Do you want them to skip? And then you can set
Right.
free Wi-Fi via Facebook setup for 1 hour, 2 hours, half hour, whatever you want to do. And you set, there's maybe 4 parameters that you choose. And it's on the Ingenious side, it's really, really easy because you're just clicking a link and it redirects you to your Facebook, and then you go through these 4 steps. So, the reason this is coming up is because Jeff and I recently ran into an issue, but I ran into other issues where they'll link the page. It looks like they've linked it, but they haven't really linked it. And why isn't it not working, or why isn't an issue? So, but the steps are pretty self-explanatory, pretty easy. You're just going through those 4 steps. Once you're done, it links, and anybody that connects to that SSID is redirected to your business page, and then they go from there. But we saw multiple problems with customers not being able to link or pair the business page, and there's a couple of reasons for that.
Yeah, so let's show the screenshot we have here that we took. So basically, this is your business Facebook settings page that I have up here, and where you see country restrictions. This customer is having problems. They had this the country restrictions set to visible to U.S. only, and the servers may be hosted who knows where, right? So the redirects from the servers could be hosted in another country. So what we figured out that is you have to set this visible to everyone, just like I have it here. So if you're having a problem and you can't link, that could be it. The other thing was page roles. You have to be an admin on that page to be able to actually link the Facebook Wi-Fi.
Yeah, that's a really good point. So if you're logging in as under your profile, you have to make sure you log in as the business owner or an admin of the business page. You have to be an admin. You can't be like an editor, for example. If you're an editor, you'll get stopped, and when you're pairing, you'll get stopped in that process. So you have to make sure you're an admin of that page. That was one mistake that we kind of ran into working with other customers. But this one was new because when you go through the setup, as a business owner, you might have multiple pages, business pages, right?
Yep.
So in this particular case that we're talking about, the one business page you were trying to link to, it would not pair, it would not work. So what we did is we switched to the other business page. Once we switched to the other business page, it linked up like that. It was really quick. So what we had to do is look at the differences between the 2 accounts, what's happening on the 2 accounts, and this is one of the items, the major item that we found, that it was filtered with US only.
Yeah.
That was a really good find. That took about an hour of troubleshooting the Facebook account.
Yeah, so I mean, all the problems. The Facebook Wi-Fi is really easy to set up, like you said, on the Ingenious Cloud side. It's just like linking it to your account. You have to have the right permissions set and the right rules set. But after that, it's really easy to link. And I think a lot of people haven't used it or heard about it yet. But I think Facebook's making a big push to get this out everywhere. So I think a lot of people are going to be tasked to set it up, right? So if you have any questions, let us know. But it works well. I set it up the first time it worked. It works on Facebook, Instagram, everything. So it's just like if you have some weird settings on your Facebook account, that's what can throw it off.
Yeah.
All right. So
and especially if you have different business pages too.
Yeah. As your Facebook profile gets more complicated, it can be more complicated to set it up. But I think we've got a handle on what caused those issues now.
Yeah, I've done probably 15 now.
Yeah. So if you have any questions about it or need help with it, let us know. We'll probably be able to help you with the Facebook Wi-Fi on the Ingenious Cloud. Now, okay, the other thing we want to talk about is we had some questions about why you would want multi-gigabit switches at home, right? So I have 3 of the Ingenious 2.5 gig PoE switches, cloud switches on my network, and I have network attached storage devices, like so down in my basement, right, like where the internet's coming in. I have the NAS devices down there, nice and quiet in my office, no fans running. So that's one reason. Like if you have like local storage like that, you want like faster speeds. You're gonna see like over. Let's see. I have a 10 gigabit link now between all these switches, right? So I'm using the SFP plus ports. Yep.
Yeah. So what is your ISP connection? Let me ask that question really quick.
So my ISP connection comes down into the basement. That's where I have the router and the first multi-gig switch.
I mean, what's the speed?
It's 1 gig.
Okay. So why would you want to use multi-gig? And
Right.
That's what you're getting ready to talk about.
Yeah. So I mean, so you're not going to be using multi-gig most likely for your internet connection. Although I know Comcast or Xfinity, they're releasing 2.5 gig modems now. So it's possible that you may have over a gig connection on your internet. It's probably pretty rare still, but they are advertising it. So that's one. Like if you do have over a gigabit internet connection, then definitely you want to utilize it. So you need the multi-gig switches, right? Now, the big reason that people want to use it is for like file sharing. Like you have a NAS server, you want to be able to back up files really quickly, and you can do that across the multi-gig switches. So I have like a network device, network attached storage, a Synology device down in the basement. It's hooked into a 10 gigabit SFP port on that switch down there, and then all my switches are linked with 10 gigabit as well as my workstation. So I'm using Twin-X copper cables to link the workstation, the NAS to the switches.
Your workstation's linked at what speed? Just at a gig?
10 gig.
10 gig.
10 gig, yeah, using the Twin-X cable. So those cables are really inexpensive, and you can get SFP plus cards for like desktops really inexpensively. That's it. Cheapest way to link at high speeds. Get the SFP plus cards and use the Twin-X cable to go right into the SFP plus ports on the switch. And then I'm also using SFP plus to copper modules, and using those to link the switches at 10 gig using copper Ethernet.
There you have it.
So yeah, and now the other reason for the 2.5 gig is the Wi-Fi 6 access points support it now, right? Like so the let's see, on the Ingenious side, the ECW 230, ECW 260 for the outdoor. Are those the only two that support it right now?
2.5 gig, yeah.
2.5 gig. So those both support it. And what we found is like on a 2x2 client device, you're not really going to max out that 1 gigabit Ethernet yet. But it's possible. If you have a 4x4 device, or because we're still limited to 80 megahertz channel width, right? So if some faster client devices come out, it's possible we could go over that 1 gigabit and use the multi-gigabit.
And you're only talking about in those situations, you're talking about like a single device on Wi-Fi at that point, and
yeah.
And you're really close to the access points and stuff. But,
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're not really seeing the need yet for it with Wi-Fi 6. Wi-Fi 6E for sure.
For sure.
But if you want the fastest in-network experience, like you let's say you have a couple switches in your house, you want to be the fastest you can. You can link the Ingenious multi-gig switches, like the 8-port.
The ECS 2512.
2512 FP is the 8-port with 4 SFP pluses. So that's a good way to both power your multi-gig access points and link your network at 2.5 gig or 10 gig.
And that switch is a PoE plus.
Yeah.
Switch up to 60 watts on the port.
PoH. So it can that'll be able to, that switch will be able to future-proof everything. Like you'll be able to plug in lots of Wi-Fi 6E products into that. There's also I talked about the desktop SFP plus adapters. There's also some USB multi-gig adapters that are 2.5 gig and 5 gig. I've got a couple here, and those also let you utilize the multi-gig. So if you have a laptop or something, you can plug the USB 3 interface or USB-C, and you plug them in a laptop, and you can and you get that multi-gig right away. That's really a simple way to do it, and they're very inexpensive, like $25 or something for these USB multi-gig adapters. So I'm using a few of those also. So that's why you'd want to use it at home. I think it's more of an enthusiast thing at this point. Not everyone's going to need it, but it's definitely good to future-proof with it. And there's a lot of uses for it right now.
Cat 5e and above.
Cat 5e and above, right? So make sure your cables are good. You want optimally Cat 6, but I'm running Cat 5e at 10 gigabit at short distances. Sorry about that. Starting early today. All right, so the other thing we wanted to talk about, while we're on switching though, 48-port switches. Now, with Ingenious, they're available now. So still kind of limited, but I just saw some shipping notices today. So I'm getting in the 48-port cloud switches. So if anyone has a project looking for 48-port switches, we'll have them available. Limited, still kind of limited, but other manufacturers don't have them at all, from what we're hearing.
Yeah. You're talking about the ECS 1552 FP.
FPs, yeah. Yep. So if anyone absolutely needs a 48-port switch, I mean, we have plenty of 24 ports. You can double those up. Obviously, it's better to have a 48-port. But yeah, the other manufacturers I know, we won't say who, but Ubiquiti and Ruckus, like it's very hard to get those switches right now, from what we're hearing. Yeah.
You just said who?
Yeah. But we do have 48-port switches coming in, so if anyone needs them, let me know. Okay, then we wanted to hit on one other thing, the Bcmc suppression, so broadcast suppression. Now, this is something that's only going to come to play in big networks. So if you have like hundreds of users on an SSID, or even lots of users, right? It's not going to happen in your
home. An SSID on the network.
Yeah. It's not going to happen in your home network that you're going to have issues with this, right? You're going to have like broadcast storms. But I'll let you talk about it a little bit more. So if there's an option on the wireless LAN side that you can enable Bcmc suppression. Broadcast multicast suppression is enabled. So what that does is it limits broadcasts on the Wi-Fi side except for DHCP.
On the wired and wireless
side. Oh, on the wired side also. Okay. Okay. So
because what happens is, like, as the network, or as clients come onto your network, the more and more clients that come on, the more communication that's happening across the wired and the wireless network.
Yeah.
And so, like, in the instance of Wi-Fi and the instance of cloud, what you'll see is the major error you'll see is really high channel utilization. That's the way you can detect it on the cloud. So you'll see that, and you'll see that across all the access points. When I say high channel utilization, I'm talking like 80%, 90% usage on 5 gigahertz on 2.4. But the other thing is that you'll get reports of clients can't connect, Wi-Fi is not available. There's all kinds of problems that you'll have, and if you have like TVs and things like that, in addition to connecting, I mean, even on the wire side, they're going to have problems across the whole network.
Yeah.
So one of the steps is to take this big network and divide it up into virtual networks, and so you're putting your users on VLANs, and you can use a tool called Vlan Polling. Will basically dynamically assign users as they log in or as they join the network. Will assign them to a specific VLAN, and you can choose 3 VLANs, 4 VLANs, whatever it may be. It's a round robin process where somebody associates, you're on VLAN 1, the next one's on 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on. But the other thing is implementing Bcmc suppression, and that will help with like the broadcast traffic that you were just talking about.
Yeah, so Yeah, like you said, one way to limit the broadcast demand is to have VLANs. Like you could have 3 different VLANs with different subnets and and dynamically assign people to those VLANs as they connect to the Wi-Fi. But then, even within those VLANs, when say somebody with Windows connects, they have like their Windows Explorer, the File Explorer, the Windows browser goes out and it looks for domain controllers and SMB shares and things like that without anyone even knowing it, right? So that those Windows PCs like generate like a certain amount of traffic just coming onto the network, and that's not accessing the internet. That's not doing anything. It's just like their housekeeping functions, and that can really start to add up as you get lots of users on the network.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I have another thing I wanted to bring up, but we didn't talk about it. But I'll just bring it up really quick. This is more of a ingenious cloud tech tip.
Yep.
So if you do have gamers on the cloud, there's some management overhead with just managing devices, right? So one of those management features, the overhead, is application analysis, and you can enable and disable that per SSID. So if you have gamers and they're seeing latency, one of the things that you can trim back or improve the latency is to disable application analysis, and you can do that under the SSID for the ingenious SSID configurations.
Yeah.
And you'd want to do that across, you want to do that across all the SSIDs if you have multiple SSIDs on an access point or broadcasting on the access point. But what application analysis is it basically is detecting layer 7 and displaying, this is the number of devices using YouTube, for example, or Facebook, or so on. So if you don't really need something like that, you can disable, again, application analysis, and that will improve the overall performance. So just a tech tip in regards to cloud.
So that can cause like a latency delay maybe if on a sensitive network like that's maybe voice or gaming, right? Like, so you turn that off because you're not going to need it, but maybe set up a different SSID for gaming, and restrict it to the gaming devices or something like that. If you do want to see that, application analysis on like your regular Wi-Fi network, right? If you do want to see, what your users are doing, offload those gamers onto a different SSID and disable that application analysis. But yeah, so in short, anyone that's seeing high utilization on their channels and they have a lot of users, enable that Bcmc suppression under the Wi-Fi settings.
Well, first, put them on a VLAN or separate them out.
Right. Try VLAN them first, and then try using this setting if they're still seeing high utilization. Now, the other thing they can do, they can actually assign a VLAN to every user too, right? If they wanted to.
Yeah, dynamic VLAN.
Dynamic VLAN. So, what does that require? Like, it doesn't. It's
really more on the switch side, making sure the ports are all,
they're tagged. They're tagged with all those VLANs, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So it requires like, if you're doing dynamic VLAN, you could, let's say you had 100 users, you could have, how many VLANs can you have maximum?
That I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know if you could have that many VLANs. I know I know that, like you said,
I end up doing that back on a radius setup on a radius server.
Right. When they come in, they're assigned.
That's where my PSK comes into play, but my PSK with radius.
Right. Right. So the radius server can assign them to like a certain VLAN based on their user authentication information.
Yep. Exactly.
So that's another way to do it.
MAC address.
Right. But as far as like utilization, look at those broadcasts. We're not even talking about a broadcast storm here. We're just, we're not talking about like switches that are improperly configured. Just the number of users coming in there can cause this.
The amount of traffic that's happening on, from a collection of, 1,000 users, for example. So,
right.
But if you're running into that problem in regards to the Ingenious product, you definitely want to reach out to Ingenious and we'll go through that process.
Use the intercom, and we'll take a look at it, or Brian will take a look at it.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else you want to talk about this week, Brian?
I know we're 5 minutes short. Did you want to bring up pricing at all?
Oh yeah. Talk about pricing and then I also want to mention this. We're on Apple Podcasts now, so I'll have the audio stream on Apple Podcasts later, so you can listen to us in your car on the way to your job.
I don't know if you want to do that, but
you may not want to, but okay. All right. What did you want to say about pricing?
So and one of the benefits of Ingenious is that we're constantly monitoring pricing, online pricing.
Oh yeah.
And so specifically with the cloud solution, so the cloud access points, cloud switches. So definitely have a MAP policy in place. So which is a minimum advertised price policy in place for devices. So occasionally we'll come across a reseller or something that has lower pricing than MSRP pricing. Our MAP policy for the cloud products are at MSRP price.
Yeah.
And so the price that's being displayed online should be MSRP. Now it's a huge benefit to our partners, right? So they don't have to worry about somebody undercutting them. They go in, they do all the work of like, here's the design, this is the bill of materials for the network. And then the end user goes online and finds stuff on Amazon, for example, or on eBay.
Right.
So that's the beauty of that whole thing. We have a partner program for anybody that sells the cloud product or installs the cloud product, but they also have to buy through like an authorized distributor. And Keenan Systems is an authorized distributor. So what I wanted to bring up is something that we're doing that you may not see is we're constantly monitoring the MAP policy and the pricing that's online. So if we ever see that, we contact that individual, reseller, whoever it may be, and say, hey, you're below MAP. You need to correct your pricing. And sometimes that happens by accident because it's going through like a feed, for example. Yeah. So we just got to be really careful. But I want to bring that up because I know that's something that we do on the back end, and you uphold the MAP policy as well. So that's a big bonus. So you're not going to find our products on like an Amazon on Amazon just in general, but definitely not under MSRP. Now I will say this: you will find it from Ingenious. It's at MSRP plus.
Plus, right?
So that's the keyword plus. So I just wanted to talk about that because that's something that we ran into this week. Yeah.
So basically, like you're not going to see any of the Ingenious Cloud product under MSRP online. If you do, that person's not really authorized to sell it, or there's a mistake there. You have to buy it through the channel of distributors, and so basically that gives you built-in margin over other manufacturers that let their product leak online, right?
You have other manufacturers that are selling it direct with more of a warranty than if you bought it through the reseller channel.
Right.
So they're basically saying, hey, come to me and buy, not from my partners.
Right.
So you have that situation with some of the companies that are out there. So you just got to be really careful with that.
Yeah. So anyone that's installing Wi-Fi as a business, you want to use the Ingenious Cloud product because there's you have that built-in margin. You're not gonna be seeing it on Amazon for less than you paid for it, and your customers not gonna be seeing it. So that's a huge plus right there. Plus you have the 2-year warranty on the cloud product also.
Exactly.
All right, Brian. So I think that's good for this week. And remember to like and subscribe for more help with Wi-Fi.